Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm watering my shady, cool growing set, and I always start with my Odontoglossum types. They're not called that anymore, they've all been classified as Oncidiums now. And normally I take one off the shelf, water it, put it down until I've done a shelf, and then I put them all back. Well, I thought, as I've got to water these, I'll do them the other way round. I'll get them all out, and then we can have a look at them, and then I can water them and put them back. So that's the idea today. There's not many. It's a small set. This would have had Miltoniopsis in it once upon a time, but I've lost all of those. I've got none left. If I see any nice plants, I will get some more, but they need to be nice plants with good root systems to start out. I'm not into rescuing that type of plant. I don't do very well on that front. Right, so, and also that Miltoniopsis would do a lot better here than they did at the other place because it's just cooler, so they should do okay. But so far I haven't seen any for sale. Right, so this is the first one. This is just, this is an Odontoglossum hybrid. It's basically two plants, neither are growing that well. If you look at this one here, this is the new growth. It's incredibly weak and it has produced a few roots but not many. So that's not going to put much strength back into that piece. This is a slightly bigger piece with plumper bulbs, but again the new growth is not doing that well. And that particular piece of plant hasn't got very good roots. Now this has got an awful lot of moss near the top of the pot, and that was put there to try and encourage the roots. And all it's doing is forming algae and going quite nasty around the top of the pot. That could do with a repot, yeah? While there's still hopefully time for some new roots to be produced. I'll do pop-ups with names, and all of these have blooms, so I've had blooms on all of them, so I'll show you what the blooms would look like. But this one's got no ID, it's the only one that has no ID. So that's that one. These came as three all together, quite honestly. They were bought quite close together. This one is Calico Gem, and it's a Oncidium. That's going to be something that's been reclassified and crossed with an Oncidium. Very little roots on this, and rotting old pseudobulbs, and a single new growth that I wouldn't say was very strong. But this one has got some roots in the pot, so it has done something. I think this will be down to the next new growth will be the one that will pull this one back. So that's that one. And the third one of that little group is this one. This one's sort of doing okay. And this is actually got a proper name. This is Odontoglossum tiger tail. It does have roots in the pot. Was it two plants? Yes, it's two plants. This is a nice strong plant. This is a nice strong new growth, and that is a good spike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11 blooms are going to appear on that spike. They're a reasonable size, they're nice blooms. The other plant isn't quite so big, but the new growth that's pushing on isn't too bad. And again, we've got new roots. These two plants, when this gets repotted, which will be in the spring because it's got moss in it, so it'll need replacing. And when I repot these Odont types, there's going to be a lot less moss in the pot. It's staying too wet. A lot of that is down to not having brilliant root systems. If they had brilliant root systems, they probably wouldn't stay wet so long. But pending those good root systems, bit lighter on the moss. So that's those three. I've always grouped those together. I'm not quite sure why. I think I bought them close together, that's why. That's my theory, what I have. And This one is, it's got Odontoglossum on it, but it would be Oncidium, and it's Anna Claire. This pseudo bulb is completely rotten and shriveled. It produced a very small, pathetic new growth, but now it's produced this new growth. That new growth is also producing some roots. So this has recovered okay. And why these look in a mess, quite honestly, is the algae on the moss on the top of the pots. Now, they were all deliberately heavy on the moss near the top of the pot to encourage root growth. But obviously then the algae forms on it because it stays wet. But this has got some reasonable roots and a nice strong new growth. I got that off my friend Brian Gould. I said, "That's nice, I like that." He said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Well, yeah, okay, what do you want for it?" He said, "So and so," and I put my hand in my pocket and came home with it. But it didn't do very well for some time, whereas now it's recovered nicely, nice strong new growth. The next new growth will bloom. I doubt if that one will. And then this one, this is in a similar boat, did very badly for a while. And this is, it's a Colmenara Masai, either white or pink. I think there's Masai white, pink and red. Red being pink, white being part of the name as well as the colour. But this is a sort of pinky white colour, so I called it white for now. Again, not doing very well, very shriveled bulbs, but a nice strong new growth, recovering reasonably well, but that new growth hasn't produced many roots yet. It may still push some out. There are some stubs near the base of that new growth, but it's recovering, and again, nice blooms. That's why I got it. And then we've got my two that came from Mather's foundation. Now these are one and the same plant, they're just different forms. When you produce plants from seed, you get a mass of seedlings. Because they're seedlings and not clones, they are variable. And these two, although they've got the same name, they are quite different blooms. Not doing too well, but this one now has a nice strong new growth. Yeah, that still hasn't produced a good root system yet, but hopefully it will. And if it doesn't, the next one will. I'm keeping these quite a bit drier than I have been in the past, and they seem to be growing better as a consequence. So this is Oncidium tippling, and this is the dark form. As I said, these two are one and the same name-wise, just different forms. They haven't been registered under different names just because they've got different blooms. They still come under the same name. Now this one's a bit behind, but it does have a nice strong new growth coming. Shriveled old bulbs, so it's recovering, and the new growths that are coming are not doing this silliness with ridiculously long floppy leaves. That's possibly going to be too much fertilizer, too much light. There are various reasons why a normal Oncidium that grows normal sized bulbs and leaves suddenly starts producing longer leaves. Whatever reason, but it makes them clumsy. They're also quite desiccated, they're not strong. But hopefully with a new growth and some roots, that puts some strength back in the plants, and the next new growth on top of that should perform normally and produce sensible roots at the right time. These two are a bit slow producing new roots at the moment. So those are my Odonts. These reclassified in the main. They were Odontoglossums or Odontoglossum types. They're now virtually all Oncidiums really. And as a pretty general rule, you can say these are cool growers that don't like bright light. They still like reasonable light, in what I call reasonable light in this country. But if they get too much light, they don't tend to grow very well. and they definitely don't like heat. They are cooler growers. They prefer a maximum of 22, 23 degrees daytime summer temperatures. That's a maximum. Obviously I can't keep my temperatures that low for the 4 months where the sun can come on the roof. I do get sort of 27, 28 during that period. So during that period they would slow right down, which might account for these not getting the full-size growths yet because of the time of year they're producing them. But now that they've got those cooler temperatures, those growths may push on better. So we shall see. But these stay on a middle shelf away from the door end, and they catch the edge of the rotating fan for some air movement. So as it rotates, when it gets to its farthest point, they get some air movement and then it moves. So they only get it briefly on the end of each rotation. And don't forget that I turn the fan on. The fan doesn't go on now the heat's gone. I don't turn this fan on till around lunchtime as the temperature slowly starts to build. I don't know what we're up to now, so I have to move. We're up to 23 now. So when I finish watering, I'll turn the fan on. It'll probably got to 24 by then, and then I turn it off around tea time, something like that. So and during the morning before I turn the fan on, I tend to leave the door half open, yeah, so that the problem is now this time of year I'm getting to the point where the dehumidifier might have to come back out from under the shelf and start being used overnight, because I'm getting, you know, 90 to 95%, sometimes higher, all night long now, where the humidity's staying in here, and it's not dissipating as much as it would do. The plants aren't using as much water in their pots because it's not as warm, so the moisture is building up in here and not getting removed. There's no way out at the top like there used to be in the other place with the extractor fan and everything. So we might have to get the dehumidifier out. Most people have trouble keeping their humidity up. Well, with my temperatures I have trouble keeping it down. Now ideally overnight I would like it 65–70%, no higher, doesn't need to be any higher. So I think we will have to start doing that now. And then it can be allowed to build up again a bit during the day as the temperature rises. So I have had times when I've had to have the dehumidifier on at night because it gets so high. I mean, I've had nights where I've come in the morning and everything's streaming. It's got up to 100% and condensed on all the glass and everything. So not ideal. And then during the day, it gets warmer and warmer, humidity drops down, and I've had to put the humidifier on. So we get rid of it overnight and then put it back during the day. So be it, if that's what I have to do. And just keep my eye on it. You know, I've got a little gauge that gives me a rough idea. It's not that accurate, but I mean it says 85% at the moment, which at 23 degrees is more than high enough. It doesn't need to be quite that high really. So we'll be working on that now as we've lost the sun on the roof. That's no longer there, so we won't look forward to that extra burst of heat during the daytime. And plants like this appreciate it. They don't need that heat. Coleogenes appreciate it, Masdevallias, Restrepias, not much else. But there is quite a bit in here that appreciates that. I'm now going to have to watch my night temperatures because I've still got quite a few Phalaenopsis in here. If it starts getting too low out here at night, I will have to move those back into the house, at which point I need to get that shelf made to go on the kitchen windowsill. And then those without spikes can tuck underneath, and those with spikes can sit on the top, and they'll all be in the house then for the winter. And then you come back out here when it gets warmer again next year. So there we go. That's a quick look at my Odonts. I wouldn't say this is a successful group because it's not, but they're hanging in there, and I think with the growths that I've got now, in the main they should improve. Yeah, but it's a wait and see. I mean, to a degree, you could say that almost all of these are in a state of rescue to one degree or another, which you probably have to say they are, because they're not all growing brilliantly, but they are showing signs of getting better, which is, you know, more than I could say this time last year, shall we say. So there we go. That's a look at those, and see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.